What's going on, guys? This is Cody from Fantasizing, where we talk all things fantasy football. Today we are bringing you guys a video where we're going to talk about 5 must-have wide receivers that no one seems to be talking about right now. But before we get started, if you guys could go ahead and just smash that subscribe button, maybe go ahead and click the bell button so you're up to date on all of our newest videos. Also, feel free to leave a like or a comment on the video if you found this helpful. We are very active on this channel and try to reply to comments as quickly as possible. We love keeping an open dialogue going about football. We really enjoy talking about football, so if you have any interest in bringing up a topic with us, feel free to post it in the comments. Also, you can find our Patreon account in the description of this video. It'll also be at the end of the video. If you have any interest in following us on Patreon, keeping the content going, you can follow us on there as well. So let's get started. So the first guy we're going to look at today is Adam Thielen. So obviously Thielen had a pretty disappointing 2019. He was sidelined much of the season with a nagging hamstring injury. He only played in 10 games. 2 out of those 10 games, he played less than 10 snaps. So really he only played like 8 games. He finished with 30 catches on 48 targets. So not great, not typical Adam Thielen numbers, not the Thielen we were used to from 2017 and 2018. So why do we have reason for optimism in 2020? Well, first we have to look at Kirk Cousins. So Cousins actually threw the ball less in 2019 than he had any other season since becoming a starter. Obviously, that's a little bit alarming. However, his yards per attempt were his highest since 2016, which was his only other Pro Bowl season. So a lot of his passes are a lot more valuable than they have been in years past. Also, Cousins was incredibly efficient. So his completion percentage was 69%. He threw for 3,600 yards, had 26 touchdowns, and only 6 interceptions. And despite the narrative that Cousins is nothing more than a game manager, I actually think he's a pretty good quarterback. And he proved that in 2018 when he was able to facilitate 2 top 15 wide receiver PPR performances from Thielen and Diggs. And speaking of Diggs, he is no longer with the Minnesota Vikings. He's been traded to the Bills. So really, Thielen does not have all that much competition for targets. There's really no one else on the roster that appears to be a threat. They signed Tajay Sharp from the Tennessee Titans to, at least at the moment, it seems like he's supposed to be the one who's filling Diggs' role, and nothing against the guy. I mean, he's certainly a better football player than I am, but he's a bona fide scrub. So Thielen should have no competition in regard to targets this next season. One more point of encouragement when it comes to those thinking about drafting Thielen. Looking back last season, again, he only played like 8 games, technically 10, but really only 8. He was actually second on the team in red zone targets. So out of all of the pass catchers on the Vikings, he was actually second on the team in red zone targets. So that tells me that when he's out there, he is a guy that Cousins is targeting specifically when they're in the red zone. If we look back at 2018, he had 9 receiving touchdowns, which was his career high. So he is a guy that can have a little bit of touchdown upside. He's proven that. So do I think that we're necessarily going to see the Thielen from 2018? No, I don't. I think we're going to see a little bit of a downgrade because while I don't think he has much competition for targets, I do think that Cousins is just throwing significantly less and they just really want to pound the rock with Cook. However, I do think that Thielen will ultimately finish off the season as a back-end wide receiver 1. So the next guy I want to talk about is Allen Robinson. Now, Allen Robinson in 2019 had a career year. He had 98 catches on 154 targets, 1,147 yards, and 7 touchdowns. Fantastic numbers. He was 3rd in the NFL in targets behind Michael Thomas and Julio. He had the 5th highest target share among wideouts and the 1st highest red zone target share among all pass catchers. Unfortunately, he had Mitchell Trubisky throwing him the ball, so quite frequently those red zone targets did not see pay dirt. Nonetheless, he's being targeted down there. All of that was to say that Allen Robinson had a very productive 2019 and finished as the wide receiver 8 in PPR formats. So why does everyone seem to be forgetting about him? Why is everyone sleeping on him going into the 2020 draft? I think it has a lot to do with the quarterback change, or what we expect to be the quarterback change. So the Bears signed Nick Foles, and we expect that it's only a matter of time before he takes over for Trubisky. So why is that such a bad thing for Allen Robinson? I don't think it is a bad thing. I think Nick Foles is an improvement over Trubisky. However minute that improvement might seem to be, regardless, it's an improvement. And I think we're going to see Allen Robinson still thrive in 2020. Allen Robinson is super versatile, frequently lines up in the slot. We know that Nick Foles loves targeting his slot receivers, so Allen Robinson's definitely going to eat in that position. And regardless, they want to get this guy involved. He is their primary playmaker. He is the target hog of this Bears offense. So I really don't see his production taking a huge nosedive in 2020. Ultimately, I think Allen Robinson will finish as a back-end wide receiver 1 to a high-end wide receiver 2. This next guy I'm about to talk about is a guy that I've been targeting in all of my mock drafts. He's a young guy that I am super excited about, and I think he's going to explode in 2020. I'm talking about Calvin Ridley. Now, Ridley had a bit of an up and down 2019. We saw some flashes of greatness. We saw a couple games where he went off, and then we saw a couple games when he disappeared. But I'm telling you right now, if Ridley plays 15 or 16 games in this upcoming season, he's going to finish as a wide receiver 1. Now, that sounds a little bit contrarian. That sounds like a little bit of a hot take, but hear me out. After Mohamed Sanu was traded to the Patriots, in the 6 games that Ridley played in to round out the rest of his season, he had 49 targets, 34 catches, 493 yards, and 3 touchdowns. If you project that out to a full 16-game season, that's 130 targets, 90 receptions, 1,311 yards, and 7 touchdowns. Those are top 10 numbers right there. And think about it. No Mo Sanu, no Austin Hooper next season. Ridley is the clear number 2 on this team. Atlanta wants to throw the ball. Atlanta threw the ball 684 times last season. That was most in the NFL. That type of volume can easily sustain 2 wide receiver 1s. Now, do I think he's necessarily going to usurp Julio and become the number 1 option? No, I don't think that. But even as the number 2 option on this Atlanta Falcons team, that's good enough to be a wide receiver 1. And there's just something about this kid. This kid has a nose for the end zone too. So in my opinion, with Ridley, you're going to get a little bit of upside as far as touchdowns are concerned. So you're hearing it right now. Calvin Ridley in 2020 is going to finish as a wide receiver 1. Go out and get him. Another guy that I'm pretty excited about because everyone's sleeping on him is Julian Edelman. Now, Julian Edelman went absolutely Looney Tunes in 2019. He had 153 targets, which was the 4th most in 2019. He had 100 catches, 1,117 yards, and 6 touchdowns. No other receiver on the Patriots even had 30 targets. He was their clear number 1 guy. He was an absolute PPR monster, and I'm excited for him. Now, obviously, I understand why people are kind of staying away. They're like, man, no Brady. This is a quarterback that he's been with his entire career. He's only played 4 games without Brady. And so I understand the cause for concern, but bottom line is, last time I checked, Belichick is still there. This is still Belichick's system. Belichick has always been someone who has wanted to utilize the slot receiver, whether it's been Edelman or whether it's been Wes Welker. I still think Edelman is going to eat in this system. And at his current ADP, he's an absolute steal. Currently, he's going like 85th in mock drafts right now. That is ridiculous. This is a guy who had 153 targets last season. This is a guy who finished as the wide receiver 7 in PPR formats last season. So I want to encourage you to continue drafting Edelman in your drafts this season. Is he going to finish as the number 7 wide receiver on the season? No, he isn't. There's naturally going to be a little bit of a regression. But at the end of the day, he's still the guy on that team. He's still like one of their top playmakers, and they're not just going to go away from him. So I expect a little bit of a regression, but I think that he's still going to finish the season as a mid-tier wide receiver 2. So the last guy rounding out this list is Diontae Johnson. Johnson had a decent 2019 considering the circumstances. He led the Steelers in targets, receptions, and receiving touchdowns. His numbers weren't fantastic, 59 catches, 680 yards, 5 TDs. However, look who was throwing to him. He had Mason Rudolph throwing to him and Duck Hodges, 2 guys that probably shouldn't even be on practice squads in the NFL. Big Ben is a huge upgrade. Yeah, he's getting older. He's like 38 right now, but he still loves airing it out. If we look at what Big Ben did just 2 seasons ago, he threw for over 5,000 yards and 26 touchdowns. That season, he was able to facilitate 2 wide receiver 1s. Now, am I saying that Diontae Johnson's going to be a wide receiver 1? No. I'm not even saying he's necessarily going to be a wide receiver 2, but I think he's for sure a wide receiver 3 with top 24 upside. And my cause for so much optimism with Diontae Johnson is, one, what we saw last season. We saw some really nice plays out of him. We saw some flashes that he's a very talented receiver. But I just think I'm so excited because of where you're getting this guy. His current ADP is 135. This is a guy that you're probably going to be able to get toward the back end of your draft, rounds 10, 11, 12, 13-ish. He's maybe still going to be on the board. And this is a guy that you can probably plug and play occasionally. And he may even break out. We don't know. Bottom line is, I really like his opportunity in Pittsburgh, and I really love where he's fallen in drafts. So I would be on the lookout for Diontae Johnson.